The first two questions are from last time that we didn't get to. It's from Ernesto. Explain continuous recursive disambiguation.
Is this mine? Is this what you're telling me? Is this why you're looking at me? Is because it's mine to answer?
Well, I can read my answer, and then you can.
Your answer, then I'll rip on it.
Okay, continuous recursive disambiguation refers to one possibility for evolution of a system or part of it, and that is into a more orderly organization, which means into more complex, stable relations. It's synonymous with negentropy. Its opposite would be continuous recursive ambiguation, entropy. We also use it in reference to language, and we can test whether a statement can be disambiguated into an operational description using first principles, just like a programming language has to disambiguate into machine code.
I don't think I can do better than that. Just for if anybody's, I don't know who's, I only see our screen. I don't see the Google chat yet. So, when you're speaking a sentence, it starts out very ambiguous. John, the ball threw to the dog, right? And the dog caught it and ran, and so that process of starting with something very ambiguous, John, which John, right? Or the man, which man, finishes. In other words, the sentence is complete when it's no longer ambiguous, when the person can understand you in the full context, and it's closed to misinterpretation. And so continuous recursive disambiguation in language can refer not only to language itself, but to anything we can express in language, including all the disciplines in sciences. And the point we try to get across is that Martin started out with, I'm starting out with language, Martin started out with physics, is that the universe only has one rule, and it's continuous recursive. It's the defeat of disorder. In other words, the release of pressure.
It's both.
What?
It's both.
Yeah, I caught myself. Thank you. It's the release of the pressure that the universe is under, either into expansion or contraction. And that contraction is what we call mass. And so that mass combines in continuously recursive disambiguation of the universe's disorder into order. And so the point here is that the entire universe, from the most basic principle to the most sophisticated thing humans can speak, and we're so far the most sophisticated thing there is, that the single rule is the same all the way through. So when we're referring to evolutionary computation, we're referring to the process of continuous recursive disambiguation of pressure into disorder, which we call expansion, and order, which we call mass. So the universe computes by continuous recursive disambiguation, the way we communicate by continuous recursive disambiguation. Did I do okay? Because I gotta watch the nerdy factor, right? There's no nerd needle on, like, if we have a measure, the AI measures want to use curse terms, right? So I'm using non-inclusive language, and the AI meter goes up when I'm using non-inclusive language, which turns out to be about 20 curses per hour or something. I don't know, it's something like that. It might be 15, depending on whether Brad's irritating me with some teasing or not. But it's about that. So we need a nerd meter, but so we have to count on each other for that.
Yeah, and I guess the only thing I am not sure is like what where you guys are trying to target to, like what audience, and whether you want to provide like concrete examples or something like that.
Great question. So there's two things I want to get. How did you say it? What audience do you want to reach? Just two questions to answer there. One is that we are trying to communicate the use of first principles, right? Maybe three questions. The second answer is that we're trying to speak in operational prose, like, in other words, at human scale. Because what you notice, and I'll pick two people I care about deeply as an example of this, three people. The three people feel closest to are Joshua Bach, who says the same thing, but he always does it in computer science terms. So they're too abstract or alien to to be used as a generalized. If I talk to Eric Weinstein, he always does it in mathematical analogies, which is way worse than computational analogies. And if I use it with Stephen Wolfram has got his own sort of language he's made up, because Stephen's in this odd position of trying to make mathematics fit the universe instead of making mathematics an expression of the universe. So if you say, who am I trying to reach? It's more like I'm trying to create a universally commensurable language accessible to humans that doesn't require these abstractions, if that makes sense. And it's somewhat difficult to do because in order to unify the sciences into a universally commensurable language, well, what are all human measurements? All human measurements have to be subjectively testable by man. So that's why we emphasize the only way to really disambiguate is to convert something to operational language, right? I mean, that's the only way. So in essence, who's the audience? Well, the first audience is whoever will put up with trying to learn this, like you. Right? The next is who once the group of us illustrate the value of it can say, wait a minute, I want that value next. The next group is those say, well, there's social value in learning this, so maybe we need to learn how to teach it. And lastly, there's the public who look at these questions and say, well, I can understand the social world like as well as we understand the world of physics. And we can unite those together under a single principle, which is not something alien like mathematics, right? Or computer science. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
You're a really positive reacting audience, Eric. I got to tell you. The blank face thing, or my ex-wife had this expression when she was listening to me, and I could never tell, are you confused? Are you disagreeing? Or are you just listening?
Yeah, do you want me to shut up?
What?
I see you just ready for me to just shut up.
You're just ready for me to shut up. Yeah, I should have added the last one there. Thank you. All right. So did we answer this question? What's continuous recursive disambiguation well enough? Yeah. Thank you, Eric, for the great question. Did I answer both halves of the question? Who are you trying to reach? There was two pizzas there. Yes.
Because like I'm picturing like the answer that you gave, right? Like for me, great answer, fascinating. But if it's the first time you've ever seen these words and you hear that answer, unless you're operating at a pretty high level, you're just going to probably be checked out and be, I mean, that was interesting, but I don't quite know what that means. And I certainly don't know how to operationalize it in my life.
That's a deep question though. And it's like, we're not going to come up with an answer that is satisfactory on the first go.
Well, I'm going to make two arguments. All right. I'm going to thank you, Eric, because I knew there was another piece there that was hanging. First, in 2012, when we first sort of branched off from the Property and Freedom Society, right? Because that's where I'm from, right? That's where the original group is from. Is the property, is the Hoppian, Rothbardian, Misesian sort of group, and Hoppe took that from the Jewish frame to the German frame, and I took Hoppe from the German frame to the Anglo frame. And so, so when we first got there, I was not as effective at communicating these ideas as I am today, because it's taken my own understanding to evolve at the time. And so, what they advise is you just need to put down the work, and we'll make it accessible. Right? Teach us and we'll teach the people. Those people will teach those people. And that's actually how things work. If the ordinary person tries to read Kant, or we live in a world made by Adam Smith and what's the other one? Adam Smith and philosopher. Come on,
Locke.
Thank you, Jesus. All right, thank you. And David Hume. We live in a world made by them, the Academy a little more so in Kant, and certainly in a world made by Darwin, Nietzsche, and Spencer, although their revolt is against Nietzsche and Spencer, right? So so we live in this world of these scribblers, but how many people understood what they were saying when they first published? I mean, nobody. I mean, I still think it's funny when people read Kant. Now, Martin's not normal, right? I mean, so how accessible is Kant, Martin?
Not very.
Not very, right? So so what we do mostly, I know what Brad has done mostly is, and I got kind of upset about somebody's pushback against me the other day on this, is that we worked mostly over the past 2.5 years, certainly since 2019, but specifically over the past 2.5 years with Brad, is how do we make this so that I can explain it to people? Because if I naturally want to, I'm going to be from the Kantian frame, right? I'm an epistemologist. I'm a Popperian, right? But I'm an epistemologist. So fundamentally, I'm going to look at this world from this epistemology of science, right? The scientific method and epistemology. But so when we first put the courseware together, I mean, I wrote it out in 2017. I started working on it in 2018 and 2019. And when we first started teaching it, nobody could follow. Why? Because, like you said, you need to be a postgrad in order to even basically grasp the initial concepts that everything's built upon. So the second thing, so originally I tried to build it on ethics. The problem with ethics is it's easily attractive to people in the beginning, but it's too easy to go to justify your priors. So I was like, I can't start with the priors because now I've got to now I'm teaching people to further resist what I'm trying to teach them. So it was only once Brad and I struggled over the summer of, was it 21, right? 21, or I don't know, whatever freaking summer, 21, or I can't freaking separate them, 21 or 22, whatever. All right. Brad and I suffered over that struggle over the summer. It was in August. I don't know if it was your idea specifically, or I just kept proposing the alternatives to you, and you said, I think it's this one. I can't remember. But once we started converting it from first principles in science upward, all of a sudden we're like, oh, this makes it tangible for people. And so it's more been, I had to figure, if I tell people, if you ask me what am I trying to do? I'm trying to make it accessible. But you got to understand, I had to invent all this just so I could express my freaking self. This is how I think anyway, right? I had to invent all this so I could communicate, right? And so once I could communicate, I understood, well, helps everybody communicate, right? This is my goal, was my eventual goal. And so the problem has been all along, how do I make what my autistic pattern recognition mind sees, right? With there's no language for, how do I reduce that to a language that's accessible for ordinary people who don't have that pattern recognition? How do I show them those patterns? Because most people see trees, right? Sometimes they see forests, right? But I see leaves. Actually, I see veins on leaves. That's the problem, right? Right. And so the problem is going from that sort of ability to that autistic obsession with seeing patterns into something that's made of measurements that's accessible to people, which is operational prose.
You can say that refer as disambiguates into trees and leaves.
Yes.
Right.
All right. So I think we got that one. That was a great question. I'm still we got Gabriel and Eric on here. And again, like too many really good looking guys. And it's like, I can't compete on those terms anymore, And who else? We got Dahan. If you see a picture of Dahan, he won't show a picture himself. He's like got this, a Greek god thing going on. It's kind of intimidating. So I'm just pumping you up, man. All right, next question.